Good morning. You're logged in as iPhone. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
What's your name?
Courtney Marshbank.
All right. All right, Ms. Marshbank, Ms. Cox, and Ms. Black. Let me advise you all of your rights as a tenant in a landlord-tenant proceeding. As a defendant in a landlord-tenant proceeding, including non-payment of rent or termination of tenancy, you have the following legal rights. You have the right to obtain counsel for representation in this matter. If you cannot afford an attorney, a legal aid attorney may be available to help you. You have a right to a trial by a jury or by the court. If the action is for non-payment of rent, and if you are eligible for any legal assistance, you may not need the judgment to get that assistance. The summons and complaint should be sufficient, although the DHS doesn't always agree with that. If the plaintiff is agreeable, the Citizens Mediation Services, Inc. may be available as a possible source of case resolution. If parties are agreeable to mediation, the court can help set that up. If you do reach an agreement with the plaintiff and a consent judgment is entered by the court, you would waive the rights listed above but have the following additional rights. The judgment could not be enforced until 3 business days had passed. You may move to set aside this judgment within those 3 days if you misunderstood what you consented to or what you were waiving. Your motion to set aside the judgment would be set for a landlord-tenant hearing. However, if the judge does not find in your favor, the original judgment would stand. The esteemed Brian Weiss is here on behalf of the plaintiff, Ben's Investments, and this matter is entitled Ben's Investment versus Caleb Black and Brandon Long. Courtney Marshbank is also connected to this matter, and she is here. I think she's the person that's actually occupying the premises. Miss Long, or Mr. Long is here. Miss Black, I blanked out your screen because you were dressed inappropriately for a court appearance, but we can still hear you. Mr. Weiss, I got a letter from Caleb Black explaining some of the background on this. Have you received that?
I got that yesterday afternoon, Your Honor. Yes, and I have had an opportunity to review that.
All right. Well, go ahead and tell us. And also, Lindsay Flynn is here. I think she's with your staff.
Yeah, she is with Berkshire Hathaway, which is the management company that manages this property. So I did review Miss Black's letter, and I have had the opportunity to talk to my client about this matter. Caleb Black and Brandon Long are the individuals who should be occupying this unit. They are the individuals identified in the lease agreement, and up until the last few months were the individuals who did occupy the apartment. Miss Black's, I believe her mother and her brother reside in the 2 other units on this property. And then Mr. Black and Mr. Long resided in apartment 3. Miss Black indicates in her letter that approximately sometime in April, her and Mr. Long had some kind of dispute. She moved out. Mr. Long continued to reside there. At some point, moved Miss Marshbank into the apartment, who I believe maybe was recently evicted from another apartment. And they lived there for a period of time until Mr. Long apparently vacated the apartment, leaving Miss Marshbank, who is not on the lease agreement and is an occupant, about whom my client has very little information other than her name. This is a non-payment of rent case. Rent has not been paid for several months now, I believe.
What's the current arrearage? I had 1870 at the time of filing. It's probably higher than that now.
It is. The rent right now is $2,520.80, and court costs are $340.75.
Let's add that up.
That is $2,861.55.
Miss Black, do you agree with everything that Mr. Weiss said? You've moved out of this place. You left Mr. Long there, and then apparently he moved out and left Miss Marshbank there. Is that your understanding?
Yes, and now she currently has other people living in the unit as well.
All right. Miss Marshbank, what's your position?
I don't have anybody else living here. It's just me and my son. I wasn't aware of any past rent besides the month, besides since I've moved in. I thought they were current up until I moved in, and I'm willing to pay at least however much since I've been here in order to stay. I'm not sure if I would have to pay their back rent or what, but there's nobody living here besides me and my son.
Well, you're what's called a tenant at sufferance. You're not on the lease. You're just there. When was rent? Rent hasn't been paid since probably
since before May. I moved out. I moved out in April, on April 12th, and they were well aware on April 12th they had to be out by May 31st, and the rent was past due then.
Yeah, so
just a minute. Just a minute. Miss Black, who else do you believe is in there?
Well, I know that, like Brian said, my mother lives in the other unit, so I'm there quite often. And every day, just about every day, there's somebody there at that apartment, whether it's Brandon, whether it's somebody she knows, whether it's just some random people. There's always somebody.
She certainly can have visitors, but Miss Marshbank, right, how old is your son?
He's 12.
All right. You're in a precarious position. You have no lease. You have no connection to the property. The people that are on the lease have both vacated, and you're there, and no one's paid the rent since April. So they want the rent to be paid, but I don't think Mr. Long or Miss Black are going to pay it. You can, if they're agreeable, enter into some sort of a lease agreement of your own. But right now you have no standing. The legal term is a tenant at sufferance. You're just there. You're not paying rent. The utilities are probably not in your name. Are all the utilities on?
I think all the utilities are included with the rent.
Okay.
Your Honor, they were well aware that they had to be out by May.
All right. I got it. Mr. Weiss, do you have any thought on this?
Well, Your Honor, I mean, this is a non-payment rent case. There is no dispute as far as the rent that is due. Miss Black and Mr. Long are the parties to the lease agreement and are responsible for the rent. So I believe an entry of a judgment for the rent would be appropriate. As far as Miss Marshbank, as the court indicated, she has no standing under the lease agreement and is a tenant at sufferance.
Well, the law requires I continue this matter for another date. I'm going to continue to August 4th.
Your Honor, what time I did hear you say August 4th. What time
2 p.m. Will that work for you? That's a Friday afternoon.
So I got several cases in Kalamazoo on the 4th. What I can do is check with Miss Strong to see if she's available. So we can go ahead and schedule these for the 4th, and I will contact the court if for some reason.
Right. Well, I haven't seen her for a while, so it'd be nice to see her. But Miss Marshbank,
yes.
No one's going to pay the rent. I guess you can pay it if you want to pay $28.61, but you don't have a lease. Miss Black's not going to pay it. Mr. Long's not going to pay it. So I have to continue this matter for at least one hearing, which would be August 4th. You would then get 10 days from August 4th to move out, or you would be subject to being evicted. So my advice would be to start to look for another place to live and put your money into that. You're not on the lease. If you wish to establish a lease with them, you can discuss it. But right now, as we both said, you have no standing. So in addition, there'll be another month's rent due when we come back on August 4th. And so the total is going to be about $35. But if they're willing to accept that and sign a lease with you, more power to them. But I suspect they probably aren't. And I suspect you don't have $3,500 just laying there to pay 5 months worth of rent. So my advice would be that you plan to find a place to move to by August 14th, or you're subject to being evicted. Ms. Black, thank you for being here. Wear something more appropriate, especially when you're leaning into the camera. We'll address this further on August 4th at 2 o'clock.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. What have you got for me?
Mr. Hochstetler, case number 863.
Yes.
Year 1040.
Good afternoon. Who am I speaking with?
This is Kayla Black.
Good afternoon. This is Judge Middleton. We're waiting for the attorney to log in, and here he is right now. Good afternoon, Mr. Weiss.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Kayla Black is here with us by telephone. For some reason, I thought you weren't going to be available this afternoon. I thought I might see Miss Strong, but I guess we'll just have to make do with you.
Yeah, I was originally not available, and then I had some things fall off my calendar, so here I am.
All right, that works that way sometimes. All right, this is file number 23855LT. It's entitled Ben's Investments, care of Berkshire Hathaway versus Kayla Black, Brandon Long, and any other occupants. We learned that I think Kayla Black left. Brandon Long was there with Courtney Marshbank. He left, and Marshbank was there. She's not on the lease. The current rent through August is $2,520.80. Court costs are $340.75 for a total of $2,861.55. Is that still correct?
I thought I submitted an amended judgment, Your Honor.
Well, I have one here. $3,070. We must have added the month of August.
We did.
Plus the costs are the same. So the current amount is $3,411.55. And I greatly appreciate the judgments. They're some of the attorneys here, we didn't have them yet, and they were going to email them. Miss Black, what's your position?
Well, I mean, I would like to have, I'm not any longer there. I have no intentions on going back. I mean, I don't mind paying the rent and payments. I'm a caregiver for my dad, so I don't make very much money. But I don't want her to remain in my apartment.
Well, I understand. So this is Kayla Black, Brandon Long, and all others. So unless this rent is going to be paid, Miss Marshbank, and I also understand that they believe she's damaging the property. So she's got until August 14th to vacate, or she's subject to being evicted. Unless you want to pay for her tenancy, which I don't think you do. So I would suggest you not pay anything. And the problem is there's no money damage issued here, but when this person is vacated, they may come back for money damages, and you're on the lease, so they may pursue you for that. I don't know. They maybe just could get well enough alone and get everybody out of there. But I do appreciate your advising us what the circumstances were with your letter, and you've been here for each hearing. I guess the people that are there are not all that concerned about it. Of course, they're not paying any rent, so what do they care? But any occupant, including Courtney Marshbank, has 10 days from today to be out, or they're subject to being evicted. And that date is August 14th.
Okay, so what, I mean, I guess I just don't understand. She's subject to being evicted, like she would have to go through this again?
You don't have to do anything. The sheriff would come and put her property out in the street.
Okay.
So if you have anything in there, I would suggest you get it out. But
no, I've been out of there since April. So
yeah, that's what you said. So no, if she doesn't vacate, the sheriff will vacate her. That's what this whole process is about. It's quite arduous, takes a while to get all the way to the finish line. And most of the time we don't actually have to go through an eviction, but probably 20 or 25 times a year, somebody actually gets evicted by the sheriff and his agents. So she has 10 days to be out, and otherwise she's subject to eviction. All right, thank you. Mr. Weiss, anything further?
No, Your Honor, I appreciate your time. Have a nice weekend.
All right, you too. All right, good luck, Miss Black.
thank you.